Well, I'm not gonna know until we start. Somebody start talking.
We said this photo on the picture and anything.
Perfect. I hear stuff. So.
Audio testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Good.
Aloha, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start. Mahalo for those of you who were here ahead of time or on time. Um, and thank you for allowing us the grace to be a little behind time. Go ahead, Auntie. Sit down. No. So we're going to go ahead and start. Um, and we're going to start with Pule, if we can please bow our hearts. E kia kua e ano mako mamua o ke olu olu e ho'o mau i na alakai ana o ke ia mau alakai ma'anei no ke ia kaya ulu. Lord, we come before you and we thank you for this day. We ask that you continue to lead and direct, guide our leaders, the leaders that are here today, whether they're from different organizations or from different branches of legislature. We thank you for your wisdom and your knowledge. Continue to bestow that upon them. Continue to guide them, direct them, and help them, Father, to continue to serve your people. It's a privilege to serve our communities. And for that, Lord, we just ask that you continue to grant us wisdom. Thank you for all those who are here, and we thank you for continuously giving us opportunity to come together, despite different beliefs, to come together as a community, to know that you are in charge. You are able to do all things. So we ask that you continue to have your way this day. Bless our time together. In Jesus' name. And we all say, amen. Amen. Mahalo Mahalo to the ARCA Safety Community Center staff who are here. They're here all day, but they're here today to support us. Mahalo to the leadership of ARCA Safety Community Center on behalf of the offices of both Rep Kila and Rep Muraoka. Mahalo for allowing us to use this space. What a comfortable space it is, and just an awesome pearl to have in our community that is open to our community use. So mahalo to ARCA Safety, wherever you are, your leadership. As we get ready to start, we just want to give some housekeeping rules. Bathrooms are through the exit this way where my hand is pointing. And the luas are over there. And then if you want to get something to drink, we are bringing a cooler for at the end of the event, but I believe the Art Cafe is still open if you would like to support them. They have some things there you can have to eat or drink. We do want to ask everybody to be mindful that we do not vape in this building, in any building, right? But especially here, and just be honorable to the building, yeah? And to the people who have allowed us to be here. At this time, with no further ado, once again, we want to say mahalo for coming. I am going to go quickly through, Rep Muraoka usually does it, but I'm going to go quickly through the guidelines. And we just want to ask that you hold all your questions for our Q&A time at the end of the evening. We have several presenters today that we're blessed to have with us today. So if you can hold your questions till everyone's done presenting. If you want to speak, raise your hand. I will come to you with the mic, okay? And we want this to be constructive. And so if we can just be considerate and civil towards one another. We always say, perfect example, DNR. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's people before anything. And if anybody knows that, I think it's our moku. It's our kaia'ulu, it's our community, 96792. So if we can be mindful of each other. And when we do have opportunity to ask questions, please don't give me your resume and your speeches. Just get to the questions so we can all have opportunity to ask our questions. And this is the part where people usually say, "You sure?" And we say, "Yes, please." If you have a question, you probably have a solution too. Go ahead and let us know what you think would work so that we can look in there. You can do half my job. Yeah, when you ask a question, then you can help us. But please come with a possible and sensible solution. But with no further ado, I'd like to introduce they don't even need an introduction, but I will introduce two men that I am proud to serve the community with. I told my husband on our trip, we went to Alaska, and my kids were like, "Oh, Mom, you didn't bring your computer." They were shocked. And one of our friends said, "Oh, why?" And she goes, "My mom loves her job." And so they said, "What?" I said, "I love my job. Got crazies, got crazy situations, but I love my job." Probably because I'm a little bit crazy too. and it helps to love your job when you have leadership like these two men in your life. And so I do want to give them where honor is due and say mahalo to the two of them for not only leading well, but also showing government how government should be led. We don't always have to agree. We can have the D and the R, but we just have to have pono hearts. Yeah? And so, with no further ado, please welcome Rep Chris Muraoka and Rep Darius Kila. These two guys. I thought Rep Kila was going to come in black and gold.
Thank you, Tanya.
I still love my job.
Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you guys so much. Like Tanya said, when you love your job, you show up every day and you enjoy what you do. I absolutely love not only what I do, but who I do it with. And that's why, as much as possible, we invite our neighboring representative who just loves his his coastline as much as I love mine. And together, it's our entire coastline from Black Rock to Kaina Point. So again, thank you guys all for coming tonight, especially. This is something that Darius and I absolutely agree 100% on, that this is a pandemic, and it's growing, it's getting worse, and the concern is our children. I would love to have seen more children, but I know we are live streaming tonight with Living 96792, as well as Pikachu's got live stream. So if anybody can text, call, let them know we want the children on. We want the children, because that's where the danger starts. This fentanyl situation is really, really bad. That's why we decided to join forces and try and fight. So with that being said, I'll let Darius have some words.
Thank you, Rep, and mahalo everybody, and mahalo Arcade Safety for allowing us to be here today. Thank you folks for joining us. I know there's a backstory, if I could tell you folks. We were trying to have it actually at the Maili Learning Center, but the dates did not pan out. So we were trying to go somewhere central. We've done it in this space before. I'm grateful for the AC, grateful for you folks coming. And as Rep said, that this is a community thing. I know we often, believe it or not, we do butt heads, but we also work really well together. But it truly is, to what he said, from our coastline, we represent 2 different districts, but anytime when something comes up, it is bigger than our districts. It's bigger than each other. So thank you folks for joining this conversation and having an open mind. I really want to also, I'd be remiss to not thank the people that help keep us sane. You folks got to hear from Tanya. Tanya works at Rep Muraoka's office, and I'll let Rep introduce his staff. But I really want to thank Auntie Christine, Auntie Doreen. They're with my office, and I would not be able to do and serve the way without them. So I want to just honor them in that way. And I really want to extend a heartfelt mahalo to our partners, to 1 who are presenting today, but then 2 that are also tabling and providing information. Kaylene is also here from Papa Ololokahi, and there's some information that she's able to pass out and distribute as well. It's an interesting conversation. It's something that's here, and I'm not saying that we can't eradicate it, but how do we find a way to have more discussions? I was telling our presenters, this is the first formal discussion I've had about it. I've seen it exist in Facebook comments, random threads of their own experiences, but not saying that it's not valid, but how do we bring it outside of social media and bring it here? And these are the experts. So to drive to YNI, thank you so much for coming. And again, thank you to the staff that helped make this possible.
Again, I want to reiterate that thank you for these professionals coming out, especially in the afternoon. We know how our traffic is, and for them to come out here just shows their level of commitment to fighting this battle. Not only that, but it shows how much they care. So let's give them the respect. Some of us might think, oh, this is boring, this is that. Boring saves lives. We need to educate ourselves so we can go home and we can tell our family, our friends, our nieces, nephews, and all our loved ones, and everybody else who will listen, what we learned tonight. There's one single element about this whole fentanyl that got me really, really involved. As a dad, you guys know, I have 6 children, I have 2 grandbabies, and we're so involved in youth sports and youth this and youth that. And when I found out that this fentanyl is coming in and it looks like candy, that's targeting our kids. That's targeting our youth. And that's not the only way it's coming in, but that's one of the ways that's growing. So for me, I was like, we got to get ahead of this, at least educate our kids, because whether you guys get along with your neighbors or not, nobody wants a kid to get hurt, period. We might bicker all day long, but we don't want to wake up. Look at the perfect example, right? 12-year-old child just got hurt on an e-bike today, and the whole island, the whole state feels that pain. Kids don't belong getting hurt, and if we can get ahead of it and try and prevent stuff like that, we need to.
So at this time, before I bring up our first presenter, I'm going to introduce them one by one. So on behalf of the Honolulu Police Department Narcotics Division, we have Detective Mark Tom. From the Department of Law Enforcement Narcotics Division, we both have Lieutenant Michael Hartstock. And then he's accompanied by He doesn't want to be recognized, but he's here with the Department of Law Enforcement as well. Okay, at this time, to kick us off, can you please join me in welcoming Detective Mark Tom to present this evening?
Thank you. How do you turn this on? No, this. There we go. Where do I push play? Nope. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Okay. My name's Mark Tom. I'm a detective with the Narcotics Vice Division. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but part of the, I'm not an expert as part of the job, though. So, Fentanyl, Hawaii. So it's not stopping. It's still coming in, but we are trying to do our best to eliminate it and reduce it. But we need everybody's help to do this. Okay. So polysubstance trend. No, I got it. I'll get this figured out. The Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center report that pure fentanyl overdoses are actually declining, but if you know how the drugs work, it contaminates other drugs that people are buying. Methamphetamine, cocaine, counterfeit pills is what's coming in. So a lot of people that are dying are buying drugs not realizing it's fentanyl, and then they're taking it, and a lot of people are getting sick or they're actually overdosing. So in 2025, a drug dealer was sentenced to federal prison. He was selling, no, I don't want to make this too much. Okay, he was doing oxycodone pills containing fentanyl, and he was sentenced for the death of an 18-year-old Marine who took the drugs not knowing it was fentanyl. And then we also took down, you guys heard of H-Mob?
Yeah.
So they were taken down, they were doing something similar. They're using juveniles to run guns and drugs as suppliers, dealers, stash houses, and stuff like that. Is there any questions on that? Unlike the mainland, prescription opioid abuse is the biggest thing over there. Ours is methamphetamine, but what they're doing is they're lacing their drugs, like I said earlier, meth with fentanyl. They use it to basically cut costs. It's cheaper to put fentanyl in it, and as opposed to pure, say, meth or cocaine or heroin. They put it in there, people get a high on it, they like the drug, they buy more. But a lot of times, what they're doing is they're putting too much because they're not scientists, they're not doctors, and people are overdosing, thinking it's something simple, what a simple drug can be, or what it is, it's too much for the body. And EMS, so it's spreading. You guys think it's just in Chinatown? It's not. It's island-wide. It's maybe not as much in here because it's not traditional for people that use it in Chinatown, but it is island-wide. So we are finding it in certain locations on regular street buys or people overdosing or whatever operations we're doing. It is everywhere. So it's not in Chinatown or downtown. What they're finding it is in regular homes, game rooms, and in hotel rooms. Like visitors coming in, tourists, whatever it is. So they bring it in and use it. You guys are part of the cartels. You guys don't know cartels are doing a lot of the drug dealing, of course. It's cheaper for them to bring it in. Oh, okay.
Jan.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So they had town halls and they're talking about distinct packaging. You guys have watched movies where the drug dealers, they advertise, they put certain characters on their drugs or the packages. The same thing over here they're finding, and they're linking it to cartels, South America or which have you. And so we know the cartels are actually operating here. we have other intel that we know cartels are operating over here. So it's not just locals doing it or people just bringing it in. It's big organizations doing it. So it's not as easy to just take down one guy when it's international. As far as impact in Hawaii, we had about 244 deaths that relate to drugs and fentanyl. About 103 about a year ago related directly to fentanyl. And so far, last year was 244. So like I said earlier, when people take drugs, they think it's one thing. It could be something they're normally taking. They take normal dose of a rock, of crack cocaine, or meth. It's normal for them. It doesn't affect them. But when there's a little bit of fentanyl in it, it hits them hard. And a lot of times they're just going to overdose and just, a lot of times they either get really sick or they're going to pass away. You guys were talking about the youth earlier. Very few people are actually buying pure fentanyl. It's not something normal people are going to buy. People that buy it are going to be buying it to usually make other drugs with it or sell it or whatever it is. Normal average people are buying pressed pills. And a lot of pills look like regular pills, like oxy prescription pills. But what it is either laced with fentanyl or they actually intentionally put fentanyl in it. So they want people to take it because it's cheaper when you add fentanyl. A couple, you guys know what salt grain is, how tiny it is? Roughly 10 to 15 of those grains of fentanyl can kill the average sized person. So if they do the mix wrong and kid takes it, smaller bodies normally, they're going to die or they're going to be sick easily. And 7 out of 10 big prescription pills seized contain a lethal dose of fentanyl. So a lot of them are just dangerous. They're dangerous and deadly. You guys heard of the blue M30s, little pills, oxycodone? It looks like an actual prescription pill when it's not. So that's what a lot of kids are taking. Like one of the partners said, it looks like M&Ms. So it can be different colors. A lot of them say M30 on it. So if you see those, it possibly could be fentanyl or could be a little bit. You're not going to know until it's actually analyzed. Hopefully nobody takes it. If you have kids using cell phones, what they're doing is, you guys know emojis? I don't know emojis. But they're using certain emojis to basically communicate on what drugs they want, how much, quantity, whatever it is, like snowflakes and all those other things. So if you see weird things on your kids' phones, possibly it could be drugs. So just don't have to talk to your kids. You guys have any game rooms on here?
No.
And maybe one?
One at all.
So, you guys know criminals like to hang out with criminals, do criminal activity. So game rooms are not just game rooms. You guys all realize that. They'll do in the game rooms, and then in there will be guys dealing drugs, because that's the element that they like coming in there. So when the game rooms get hit, games get reduced, hopefully we can reduce the amount of narcotics in the area. As long as we can eliminate that one, but then you know what happens, another one pops up right away. And then, are you guys aware of how narcotics comes to Hawaii?
Yes, multiple reports.
Ports is one of them.
FedEx.
FedEx.
Mail.
And then mail, yeah. That's some of the normal ways it's coming in, besides hand carrying. So, in order to eliminate it, we have to try to catch them all. That's why you increase the drug interdictions at the airports, airlines, parcel places, post office. That's one of the ways we're reducing it. Once we recover those and the investigation starts, we can try to find out who's bringing them in and where they're going to. You guys all heard of Narcan lately? Okay. Is anybody afraid to use it on Narcan on somebody if they're sick? Okay. If anybody is worried that they're going to get sued for giving Narcan, you're not. There's a law specifically stated for that you can apply Narcan. It's not going to affect them if they're not overdosing on fentanyl. It's just going to be like a nasal spray to them. But if they are taking it, it's going to react to the chemicals in their body and hopefully bring them back. Yeah. So normally we carry 2 doses. 1 dose works. If not, with a second dose, you just keep going until they come back. The other one is, if you guys find drugs, don't worry about turning it in or calling the police. As long as you're being honest and saying, I found this, they're going to recover it and they're going to make a case. Some people are afraid that if they call the police, they're going to get arrested or they're going to get in trouble. But it's not true. If you're smoking it, yeah, you're going to get in trouble. But if you find it and then you want to turn it in, just call. If you're afraid to pick it up or touch it because of possibly fentanyl, just leave it where it is, call the police, and they'll come by and recover the drugs. Have you guys seen a Narcan overdose in movies or whatever? Okay. Yeah, so a lot of them, they do this big dramatic, overdose and collapse and everything. A lot of times the fentanyl will hit you and your body will just stop. So some people, when they get sick, it's immediate and it's right in place. They'll either collapse or they'll fall asleep. If they collapse, they may go into respiratory seizure, basically. They're going to stop breathing. Their body's going to stop functioning and they're going to pass away. The other way is they're going to take it and they're going to just fall asleep. And then their body's going to slowly shut down. So if you see the signs of somebody snoring and it doesn't look natural to you, if you have Narcan, you can try to apply it, try to wake them up, and of course call 911. But it's not like the movies where just, they collapse and roll and all this other stuff. With that comes the choking. So you got to immediately place them on their side. You guys know what a rescue position is, where you place them on their left side, right side, tilt the head so they can breathe, open up the throat. That's one of the things you need to do for fentanyl or even drug overdoses. So in order to address the narcotics issue, synthetic fentanyl, the whole community actually has to work together. One of the biggest things we have as law enforcement is the community to provide information on what they know, what's happening. I don't want to say rat out your neighbors, but if you think somebody's suspicious or illegal activity, you can always call and somebody will start an investigation. And it's based on whatever evidence is recovered, what observations are found. It's not going to be automatic. Your neighbor is going to get arrested or the drug house down the street is going to get closed down. It's a long-term investigation. We actually have investigations going on for years, like multiple years, 2-3 years, so it's not an immediate effect. But everybody actually has to participate and help out. You guys have any questions at this time? Okay. All right, I think so. It is a question slide. We're not doing that. I don't know what I did to your thing.
I actually do have one question before I let you run away. Oh, no. Shucks, never mind, even I gotta follow rules afterwards. Yes. So our next guest can come right up.
Is it working? I will, I'll let you guys know that although Detective Tom and I both work in narcotics enforcement with the Honolulu Police Department, I'm with the State Department of Law Enforcement. We work together sometimes, but not all the time, so you'll see some overlap in our presentation. Some of the things he talked about, I will also talk about. That's probably where you're going to be ready to have me lead the stage up here at the front, but I'll try to push through. I'm going to talk a little bit about some different stuff. He talked mostly about what their impact has been, or more immediate impact. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid drug. It was developed in 1959, first synthesized. It's about 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine. And it's a very good anesthetic drug. Hospitals and doctors, anesthesiologists use it frequently. If you've had a major surgery, you could have had it. And in that sense, in that form, it's very helpful and beneficial for people. The problem that we have is that, as with a lot of good things in life, somebody decided to take it and use it in an illicit manner or illegally. So it can be present in many forms: powders, tablets, in any color. We were talking about M&Ms earlier. Those little M30 pills can be in any color. They're basically taking a powder, they're adding color to it, they're using a dye and pressing it. They can put it in any shape they want. So don't get too fixated on it has to be a certain look. it can look like just about anything. This is just an example of some real and fake pills, oxycodone, Xanax bars, where you can see that they've taken a similar stamp or dye, and they've tried to create something that looks like a legitimate pharmaceutical pill. And what they do is that's a way that they can then possess it and transport it easier. If somebody thinks it's a legitimate medication, obviously they're not going to take it away from you. Okay? But those are some examples of how you can kind of tell them they're different. The lines look different. It looks like it's almost been like rubbed down, the counterfeit ones. Real ones will have a coating on them, so they'll keep their shape, they'll keep the lines really good for a long time. Fentanyl seizures, and this is throughout the state. If you'll notice that, like, one that really jumped out a lot to me was counterfeit fentanyl pills. So the pills last, in 2025 is the last year I have data for you, because we're still in 26. But the pills actually dropped quite a bit. But if you look at it, there's also a corresponding increase in powder, right? So it just shows not that it's coming in less, it's coming in different forms. So once we started intercepting a lot of those pills, right, we're seizing them. They're going to look for a different way to bring it in. They're going to look at a different way that they can distribute it. And so that's why now we're seeing the powders went up a lot, right? Because they found that maybe it's easier to do powders, or there's also been an increase recently in cocaine use throughout the state. That's another thing that they're adding the fentanyl to. So it can come in a lot of different ways, but most recently it's been a lot more powders coming in. Here's the drug-related deaths. This is total drug-related deaths. This is not just fentanyl deaths. And I will say, as you guys are probably very well aware, methamphetamine or ice is still the drug of choice in Hawaii. It still kills more people than any other drug. The big difference is that the people that are dying from ice use are dying from what they call chronic injuries. It's long-term, right? So chronic is not only a term we use for the guys that are walking down the street or cutting their grass at 4 a.m., taking apart their lawnmower every night. Not only for those guys, but it's also that long-term illness. Whereas fentanyl is what they call like an acute injury. It's something that the first time you use it, you might die. Okay, and that's what makes it so much more dangerous in that sense. Now we're talking fentanyl specific in this, and luckily we were a little bit on the decline. I didn't have the 2025 numbers yet, but I think they were down a little bit from this as well, the last I heard. So hopefully we'll get those out and we'll see that it continues to be a decline. And one of the big things or big reasons for that is some of the laws for Narcan. Narcan, and like I said, you probably already heard it, but you're going to see more of it. But here's the methamphetamine death co-occurring with fentanyl. So that means both those things in their system. Yeah? And it's really unusual because fentanyl is a depressant. It's a respiratory depressant. It brings your system down. Whereas methamphetamines is a stimulant. Cocaine is a stimulant. But they'll still cut it in there because they can expand their product that way. Like Detective Tom was saying, right, it's a cheaper alternative. So they're able to expand their product, get more money out of the same amount of product that they have. Just kind of general knowledge, there's a bunch of different ways that you can get impacted by fentanyl. Routes of exposure can be, the most common is inhalation, that's when you would breathe it in. Although it isn't really a aerosolized powder, it doesn't go in the air easily. But if you had it on your hand and you rub your nose or something, right, you would inhale that in. Injection is what most drug users do. If you're a heroin user and you've changed from heroin to fentanyl, you might be injecting yourself. Absorption is when it actually absorbs through the skin. And while there are fentanyl patches that are designed to work like that, illicit fentanyl powder doesn't really have good properties to absorb through your skin. It doesn't absorb easily. And we'll talk a little bit about that also. And ingestion, which is the least likely, is actually when you eat it or when it enters into your mucous membranes. And that would only be if Like for law enforcement officers, this could be a concern because you might have to handle evidence if you don't have good hygiene, right? And don't make sure you wash your hands really well before you go get a drink or get something to eat. That could be a problem, and it has happened to law enforcement officers in the mainland. None here that I'm aware of, but that's another way that we can be exposed. This is one of the things, when fentanyl kind of first hit the scene in around 2018 and 19, it was really almost a mania about it, where people were so concerned that if it touched them, that they would be infected and they would fall and collapse. We've gotten more knowledgeable and have come to realize that it really doesn't have good properties to absorb through your skin. If you have good PPE, if you use gloves, eye protection, that kind of stuff is really beneficial for, even just for us, for law enforcement. But you can actually put a lethal amount, or what they say is a lethal dose on your hand. You can hold it there for 15 minutes. And if you look at where the little red star is over there, that would be your lethal dose. And the green dot, the green star, is how much you would have actually absorbed in that 15 minutes. Way, way, way below what is would be a lethal dose, right? So if you get some powder on you and you're worried about it, wash your hands, right? Wash your hands with warm soap and water. Don't use alcohol. Don't use hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer and alcohol open your pores, right? So we want to make sure we wash our hands with soap and water. Some signs of possible overdose: awake, unable to talk, very slow, erratic pulse or heartbeat. When they say the body is limp, they have a term that they say is called on the nod. Basically, it looks like somebody's asleep. So you'll see people, after they've used fentanyl, heroin, other opioids, they actually will either sometimes just be leaning on a wall and look like they're asleep, or sitting and look like they're asleep. Or sometimes you'll see them like lean against the wall and they'll just like slide down to where they're sitting or laying down. Fingernails and lips turn blue. Lighter skinned people, skin turns kind of purplish or bluish. Breathing very slow. Could be vomiting, loss of consciousness, unresponsive. And that's where we talk about our Narcan, right? So like Detective Tom said, Narcan is one of those that you're protected by through Hawaii law if you use it. There is a law that will protect you. And the other thing, though, is that right now there hasn't been found to be any negative side effects to it. So if you use it on somebody that is not overdosing on opioids, it's not going to have a negative effect on them, right? It's not going to cause them any other health issues. But if it is somebody that's overdosing on opioids and you use it, it's going to block that opioid receptor in the brain, and they're going to wake up, potentially. Might take 2 or 3 doses, but they would wake up if it is an opioid that's what's affecting them. I will give you a word of caution. Regular users of opioids, of heroin or fentanyl, if you use Narcan on them, they might be mad at you. They might want to fight with you because you just took them out of the best high that they ever had. So just be very cautious, be aware. Try and have somebody else with you, if you're going to administer it. Obviously, call 911 is the big thing, right? Once you administer it, you want to call 911. You want to make sure that they know that you've already administered it, if you have. And kind of let them know exactly where you're at. If you have somebody that can bring them to you, if you're in a building, in an apartment, something like that, if you can have somebody go down and bring them straight to you so it's that much faster, that's always something we suggest. And then again, Detective Tom talked about this, the recovery position. If you have to leave that person, even for a short time, I think I have a picture. Yeah. This is the recovery position. The person laying down is in the recovery position. So you want to extend one arm above their head, the other arm kind of across so it's cradling their head, and their knees, so you want them to kind of be a little on their side but leaning forward. So if they vomit, the vomit goes out and away from them, not back into them, which could cause them to drown. right? So this is the recovery position. It's a real good position that you can actually leave somebody alone if you have to go and get more Narcan or get the medics to come, get EMS. I talked about kind of basic PPE. When fentanyl was first kind of real popular, or not real popular, when it first started being recognized as being in high use, DEA came out and they said, oh, if you're going to investigate fentanyl cases, if you're going to recover fentanyl, you have to be in level A PPE, level A protection. If anybody ever watched the movie Outbreak, when you're fully encapsulated and you have an air tank inside with you, that's level A. That's when I talk about kind of the mania that was going on for a while. This is actually very good protection, and you'll see EMS, police, and fire all with these eye protection, some kind of respiratory protection, even just a surgical mask, and gloves. And that's enough for you to be able to safely work around this. And I'm going to skip my questions slide because questions don't come until the end. And that's all I have, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that information. We have one more presenter? No? Okay. Nicole. Yeah, so we're going to have Waianae come forward because they're so generous. They actually are going to donate Narcan to all of us tonight while supplies last. But they're also going to show us how to use it. So everybody leaves here tonight can have Narcan. We can help save one life. Nicole, right? Nikki. All right.
Aloha, 96792. It is so lovely to see all of you beautiful people out here on your Wednesday night to give up 2 hours of your time to learn about fentanyl and naloxone. It just warms my heart. We wanted to start out by thanking Representative Kila and Representative Muraoka and your wonderful staff for inviting us here to speak to the community this evening. My name is Dr. Nikki Wright. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and certified substance abuse counselor, and I'm director of Malama Recovery Services and the Health Center's Integrated Chronic Pain Management Department. It's called Ho'okula Hale. I brought with me today 2 of my finest staff members. This is Nohea Westcott. She is our vocational rehabilitation counselor for Malama Recovery Services, and we have Chelsea Gomez, who is our care management specialist for our pain management department. Now, we have to be honest, we're kind of last minute preparers. I don't know if you guys waited to the last minute to do homework assignments when you were in school. So we just did our slides, and we also didn't realize that there were gonna be presenters before us. So what you're gonna see is a lot of slides with information that was already covered in the amazing first 2 presentations. However, as I was panicking a little bit and having a panic attack in the back there as I was watching the first 2 presentations, what I remembered was my Psychology 101 training. And have you ever heard of this phrase, repetition is the mother of all learning? I'm hearing a lot of yeses, I'm seeing the nods. Okay, so psychologists have figured out that you have to hear something or repeat something 3 times for you to really learn it and for it to stick in here. So, 1, Chelsea and Nohea, they're fabulous. They are our 2 coordinators for the Health Center's Narcan or Naloxone initiative. They are amazing, they have a lot of experience and knowledge, but this is the first time they're at a community event. So 1, I need all of you to be a very supportive audience because I want them to continue to share their mana'o and ike with the community. So we're just gonna give them a lot of love and a lot of support and applause throughout their presentation. But 2, if you notice, there's going to be repetition of information. We're still going to repeat it so you guys can learn it, and maybe in a different way, but we're going to kind of breeze through some of the things that were already covered in the first 2 presentations. Okay, and then at the end, we would love for you to all go home with a couple boxes of naloxone, and hopefully you'll hear why through our presentation.
Aloha, everybody. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. So again, there's going to be some repetition, but just bear with us. Okay, so we're gonna kind of break down what an opioid is, right? So we hear this term a lot, but just kind of giving that background knowledge on what it is and how it can apply to a lot of different substances. So opioids are a type of medication used to treat moderate to severe pain. They work by attaching to these specific receptors in the brain and body to reduce pain signals and make pain feel less intense. So because of this, they affect the central nervous system, which includes the brain and controls many different body functions. As they have shared, opioids can cause drowsiness, relaxation, and slowed breathing. So when used as prescribed, opioids can be effective for managing pain. However, when they are misused or taken in higher amounts than intended, they carry serious risks, including overdose. So where do opioids come from? Some opioids are naturally derived from the opium poppy plant. Others are made or modified in labs. So you may hear terms like natural, semi-synthetic, or synthetic opioids, but regardless of how they're produced, they all work by interacting with these opioid receptors in the brain and our nervous system. It's important to understand that all opioids carry risks, including dependence, addiction, and overdose, regardless of wherever they came from, whether it's prescription or illicit source. Okay. So what is the central nervous system? So to understand how opioids affect the body, it's kind of helpful to understand what the central nervous system is. It's made up of the brain and the spinal cord and serves as the body's main control center. It processes information, helps us think, learn, and manage emotions, and allows us to move and coordinate our bodies. It also helps us feel pain and other sensations. Most importantly for today's discussion, the central nervous system controls automatic functions that keep us alive, such as breathing and our heart rate. So because opioids act on that central nervous system, they slow down these functions. So when there's too much opioids present in our body, they can become dangerously slow or even stop, which makes the opioid overdose so life-threatening. Okay, so now we understand the basics of opioids and how it affects our body. We're going to talk about a little bit more about fentanyl, as it's one of the most common opioids involved in our overdose deaths today and can appear in many different forms.
Perfect. Okay. So why this is all important is that fentanyl is a powerful, fully synthetic opioid, which was originally developed for medical pain management. So unlike morphine that has derivatives from the opium poppy, fentanyl is completely manufactured in laboratories and for medical use. More right here. Okay. So, however, illegally manufactured fentanyl has become one of the leading causes of overdose deaths because it's extremely potent. So kind of explaining the slide is that you can see different forms of illicit fentanyl. You have like counterfeit pills, so people are thinking that they're buying like oxys or Percocet. You have different powder forms. You have the rainbow fentanyl, as our other speakers were talking about, and as you can see, this is like geared and marketed more towards our youth, right? You have capsules, tablets, and also liquid solution. But fentanyl is also being laced in a lot of other drugs, as they were saying as well too. So like cocaine, methamphetamine, marijuana, heroin. So why this matters is that many people who overdose don't know that fentanyl is present in the substance that they're using. Okay. All right. So how much fentanyl it actually takes to kill is only 2 milligrams. So the image really helps illustrate just how powerful fentanyl is, and the lethal dose that many adults can have is just 2 milligrams. So as you can see, it's just on the tip of that pencil is what's going to cause the overdose. So one of the biggest misconceptions that we hear is that when we hear the word overdose, they often picture someone using illegal drugs, right, or illegal substances. But overdose actually happens in many different situations. You have adults, so adults especially living with cognitive challenges such as like dementia, memory impairment, they accidentally take medication twice or even confuse their medications. You have also patients taking prescribed opioids, right? So many people are prescribed opioid medication like oxycodone, hydrocodone, morphine, fentanyl patches to manage pain. But these medications can be safe when used as directed. However, it gets increased when you're combining benzodiazepines. So those are like Xanax, Klonopin, Ativan, and also Ambien, and also other alcohol as well too. So having naloxone available adds another layer of safety, just like having a fire extinguisher in your home. Next is our kiki, right? Our kiki are naturally curious. They mimic what their loved ones are doing. So when they see medication left in a purse, backpack, medicine cabinet, or even on the kitchen counter, it can quickly become an emergency. So that's why we encourage families to store medication safely and know where naloxone is when needed. Next, we have our youth. So as we were saying, right, today's youth face pressures previous generations didn't. So that's like counterfeit pills, fentanyl contamination, social media, and peer influence. So for some young people, it could be their first time experimenting, and because fentanyl can be hidden in other substances, the first use could become life-threatening. I have 4 teenagers at home who I talk about different substances, I talk about fentanyl, I talk about having naloxone, right? I probably talk their ears off and irritate them. But my point is that I hope that when my children go out and they go with friends, that they make the right choices. But sometimes I have to be realistic that they may not, right? So having them out there is my job to educate them about these conversations on substances and making sure they know about naloxone. Okay. So next we have people in recovery. So as we know, recovery is a journey. It's not linear, right? Relapse can happen. So sometimes after a period of abstinence, the body loses tolerance. If someone returns to using the same amount they once used, their body may no longer be able to handle it, placing them in a higher risk for overdose. So naloxone can provide another opportunity for recovery. So as you can see, naloxone is not about judgment, it's all about compassion and giving somebody another chance. I think you just pressed it. Yep. Okay. Okay. So I know they kind of talked about this already, but this is kind of the recognize, respond, and how to save a life. So number 1 is you really want to be able to recognize, oh, I can't see it good. Okay, perfect. So when you're recognizing an overdose, you first want to be known that naloxone can be used on anyone. So one of the great things about naloxone is that it's extremely safe. It can be used on any age, any health conditions, and even animals. They were able to actually bring back animals who had opioid overdose, and their animals came back. So that's great. So when in doubt, give naloxone. So 1, you want to recognize the signs of an overdose. So not waking up or responding, breathing, lips, pupils, gurgling, all of that, as you can see. And then also calling out their name, rubbing the sternum, rubbing the bottom of the feet. You also want to be making sure that you call 911 immediately. So even if the person wakes up, your job is not finished. Naloxone can actually last anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. So in some cases, the overdose can return. So even though the person is brought back, the overdose can return. So this is such a crucial aspect to call 911. And when you do call, let the dispatcher know that the person is unconscious and not responding. You do not know for certain that it's an overdose, so let the emergency responders figure that out. Okay, so step 3 is actually how to administer naloxone and give it to somebody. We do have these expired naloxones for training, so I'm going to kind of demonstrate what that looks like. Okay. All right, so you're going to open it up. The person's laying down. Keep in mind when you do get this from us to not play or test with it because you only get one shot at this. So you're just gonna open it up right here. There's like a little tab. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Yes. Okay. So, you know what? I'll just start from this one. Okay, so this is what it looks like. You're gonna get 2 doses in the box that we're gonna give today. There's like a little tab back here. You're gonna pull it down, and there's also instructions in it as well too. You are gonna take this out. You are gonna put this up the person's nostril. You don't have to jam it up there. Just make sure you get it up there, okay? And then you're just gonna dispense it, and this is what it's gonna look like. You're just gonna one time, and that's it. Okay? After 2 to 3 minutes, if the person does not respond, you are gonna wanna take the second dose and put it in the other nostril. Again, wait 2 to 3 minutes. Some people need multiple doses besides sometimes 4, sometimes 6 to bring them back. So that's why it's very crucial that you call 911 as well too. Next is giving rescue breaths if you feel comfortable. One of the biggest dangers during an opioid overdose is that the brain isn't getting enough oxygen, so making sure that you are providing those rescue breaths if you feel comfortable. And then kind of like our other speakers were saying, when they do come back, they may feel anxious, they may be confused. Some get angry, some want to fight, especially if you just mess up their high, like as they were saying earlier too. So just keep in mind to give them space, give them support, give them that understanding in that moment. And another step that's not on here, but I think is so important, is that make sure if you do give naloxone to somebody, that you debrief. You find support for you because you matter. What you just did is that you brought somebody back from overdose, and that can be heavy. So making sure that you talk with somebody and find support for you because you matter as well.
Okay, so a little bit of a visual of how naloxone actually works. So we're gonna think of these opioid receptors that we have in our brain, our body, as parking spaces, okay? So with normal use, we're gonna see it in the green there, right? So their pain is reduced, my eyeballs, and then may cause sleepiness, but they're still responsive. When someone is taking an opioid, the opioid molecules will park in those spaces, meaning these receptors. Once they are parked, they activate the receptors and reduce those pain signals. This is why opioids can be effective for pain relief, but they can also slow important body functions like we had mentioned, such as breathing. So in an overdose, looking at the red, right, too many opioid molecules, they fill too many of these parking spaces. So this is like Ivile Costco all the time, right? It's full, it's full. The brain becomes overwhelmed, breathing can become very slow or even stopped. So naloxone works like this emergency tow truck. It moves in quickly, it pushes that opioid molecules out of those parking spots, and it will take the place on the receptor, but unlike the opioids, it does not activate them. Right? So instead it blocks opioids from acting on the brain and the body, so breathing is restored. And then once naloxone clears those spaces, the brain can begin working normally again. This is why naloxone is considered a life-saving medication. It can quickly reverse the effects of opioid. So naloxone does not treat addiction, and it does not cause a high. Its only role is to reverse that overdose and keep someone alive until medical care is available. So again, in some cases, more than one dose may be needed because these opioids are still floating around and present in the body. Okay, so they already introduced this a couple times. So this is the Hawaii's Good Samaritan law that they had mentioned, which basically is here to encourage people to call 911 in case of an overdose and to help save lives, right? They're not going to get you in trouble, and this protects the person who is experiencing the overdose as well as the person who is calling.
So I know that most of our presentation is about fentanyl, but I did want to take a moment to just talk about kratom or 7-OH or 7-hydroxy because this has becoming an emerging public health, and you can actually use naloxone if an overdose is happening. So one of the biggest concerns is how easy these products are to obtain, can be purchased online, smoke shops, convenience stores. So many people assume that this is safe because it is in the store, but that is not always the case. Marketing is misleading. Many are marketed as natural pain relief, focus enhancers, energy products, even safer than opioids, but it actually does the same thing to the brain as opioids, which means it just sits and overdose can happen. So there are real health risks with it. So 7-OH is not without consequences. It has that potential for physical dependence, addiction, withdrawal, mental health concerns, and again, overdose. So naloxone can save a life in this. So if someone is suspected of overdosing on 7-OH, treat it like any other overdose in the steps that we went through in the previous slide. Okay. So I do want to share a resource that we are very proud of at the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center. Right outside our pharmacy, you are going to find our naloxone vending machine. It is completely free to use. You just punch in your number just like any other vending machine. It is going to dispense you a kit like this, 2 nasal administered. Take as many as you need. If for some reason it's empty or jammed, because the little kids like to press the button and then it just gets all jammed at the bottom. But anyways, if it is, it's going to link you to our team. They're going to come up and give you some, and then also unclog it as well too. Okay. You can just, well, I think it kind of changed, right? Storing it? Yeah. Storing it, how do you store it? Go ahead.
Okay, so you want to store it somewhere cool. They recommend that you don't store it like in your car where it's going to get really hot. However, if you forget and you leave it in your car and you think somebody is overdosing, still just use it and then come to the health center and just get a new kit. So, is that the last slide? We have a couple more? Okay. Was that your question, Representative? Okay.
All right. All right, so our vending machine does also provide free fentanyl testing strips. So if someone is not ready for recovery yet, that is okay. You can actually use these strips to test their substances to see if they have presence of fentanyl in it. As we talked about in previous slides, right, a lot of the substances are getting mixed with fentanyl. Also on our screen, you'll notice the QR code. It's going to take you to Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction, 20-minute video on what to do during an overdose as well too.
If you guys think that fentanyl is not here in Waianae, we are actually seeing it in our clients coming into our program. It's very scary. We've had clients who tested positive for fentanyl, and then they get mad at us because they're like, we don't use fentanyl. We just smoke weed. And then they start accusing my staff. They're like, your staff put fentanyl in my pee cup. And I'm like, my staff's not walking around with fentanyl and trying to sabotage you guys, I promise you guys. So it's up to us to educate people and say, hey, drug dealers are now cutting other drugs with fentanyl because of various reasons. And so that's why we offer the free fentanyl test strips as well, because like Nohea said, some people are just not ready, but we don't want them to die while we're waiting for them to get ready. So it's important for them to test the drugs that they are using to make sure that that fentanyl is not in there.
So we're proud. So mahalo. Thank you so much.
So this is how you can get in touch with us. Just a little recap. Number 1, fentanyl is a life-saving medication. So even if you're not sure if somebody's overdosing on opioids, just give them the medication. Because if you... Naloxone. What was I saying? Oh my gosh, I said fentanyl. It's the end of the day, guys. Thank you guys for being so patient with me. Okay, so even if you're not sure if they're overdosing, just give them the naloxone, because if they're having a heart attack or if they're overdosing on some other drug, it's not going to hurt them. Okay, so it's better to just administer it just in case you're not sure and save their life. 2, you're not going to get in trouble because there's a Good Samaritan law. So even if the person wakes up and they're super mad at you and they tell you they're going to sue you, you're protected by the laws in Hawaii. So don't have to worry about that. 3, I carry around my naloxone kits everywhere because there was one time I forgot it and I was on a plane from New York all the way to Hawaii. It's like a 10-hour flight. And one of these old kupuna in the back, she saved her whole life to come to Hawaii, to visit Hawaii. And I think she forgot and took 2 doses of her, I don't know if it was Vicodin or some kind of opioid, and she just passed out. So the flight attendants come on the intercom and they're like, we think we're having an overdose. Does anybody have naloxone on the flight? And I'm like, yeah, I carry my naloxone everywhere. So I'm like looking through my purse and I'm looking through my carry-on. I had forgot it at my house. It was the one time I forgot it, and I never leave home without my naloxone ever again. Because you never know. You could be going to the library and somebody could pass out in front of you. You could be on a flight like I was. So thank you guys so much for being here. We're going to be in the back until 8 o'clock. Please stop by, grab your free naloxone kits. Take more than one. The reason that we give it for free is because there's many studies on the continent that show that the more naloxone there is in the community, the less overdose deaths those communities experience. So that's why we offer it for free at the health center. I would also recommend that you look at the expiration date on your box and put an alarm to yourself on your phone. So when the expiration date comes up, you just stop by and come and see Nohea and Chelsea over here, or come to our vending machine and get a new kit. It's free of charge. Thank you guys. You have been a wonderful audience.
Hello? Yes, so we're going to start with questions. Rep Kila is going to come around. Or Rep Kila can stay up here. I will come around. Raise your hands if you guys have questions, and we'll try and address them one by one.
And then if you could, also with the question, excuse me, if it's either for Waianae Comp, Narco County, or DLE State. So if, and then also while you're asking the question, please feel free to introduce yourself to our presenters as well, please. There's a question right over here. Right?
Okay, I'll start. First question, Mr. Tom. You had mentioned in your presentation, one thing that grabbed me and just held me all night is the emojis. Can you give us I'm old school. I raise my kids the way my dad raised us. I pay for the phone bill, I'm going to look in your phone. So if you can help identify some of those emojis that I could be looking for, because I get nieces and nephews also, I'm going to look in their phones as well.
They're not the normal emojis you see, like the shakas or the thumbs up. A lot of them are there's a snowflake for like cocaine, and there's like a screen one. It's not the normal ones you're going to be seeing. There's a whole pamphlet of it, like probably 50, and you can communicate entire messages with just emoji, what drugs you want to buy and everything. But there's like wind ones, and there's just, I would have to give it to you. So if you give me an email, I could probably email it to you.
Okay, I'll give you later on. We'll get email and we'll pass that out because that's really good information.
Yeah.
Who was first? Let's start in the back. Who had their phone out?
Michael William Capolino, Eli. I just wanted to talk to comprehensive, like how they had the like he is lying down, and the next one call 911, then give him the can, then mouth to mouth. But what if when you mouth to mouth, you can get any stuff in your mouth? You know what I mean? You can get overdose if that's fentanyl. Yeah. If that's fentanyl, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why we said that only if you feel comfortable, give those rescue breaths. I mean, if it's your family, you probably feel comfortable and you want to try to do anything you can to save them, but it's up to you. If it's a stranger, we're not forcing you to do that. We would still recommend administering the naloxone and then calling 911, though.
Just got to put them on the side so they can
Put them on the side in that rescue position.
so they can throw up, right?
Yes, but there's very little risk that you will also overdose. But if you're worried at all, still don't just leave. Still give the naloxone and then call 911.
And in the spray can be warm temperature room or whatever. in a
Yeah.
cabinet?
Yeah, what's the degrees you're supposed to store it? You know what? I just keep it on me because I know that if I'm okay, my naloxone's okay.
Thank you. Good
So
question.
just try not to
Yeah.
leave it in your hot car, in your
No,
truck.
she said no hot car. No hot car.
No hot car. Yeah, it could lose its effectiveness if you leave it in the hot car. Yeah.
Michael, would you like to show us, give us an example of the position to lay down on your side?
No, please. Rep, we have 2 questions, one up here and then one back there.
Hi, this is for the healthcare professionals, but I guess it could be for any one of you.
Can you introduce
Are-
yourself?
Sorry?
Can you share your name?
Yes, sorry, my name is Love. Aloha. Yes, thank you for being here. And what I'm wondering is there any plan to give this presentation to the kids? Because this seems like it could be a really good deterrent for them on whether they would use drugs or not.
If I can rephrase the question, then I think to all 3 of you, how has this presentation made its way into our youth spaces, or how has it not? So we'll start with Wainekam.
Thank you for the question, Love. Yes, so we actually come and speak anywhere we're invited. And so if the DOE does contact us and ask us to speak to certain classes or grades, then we are more than happy to do so. Right now, we're mostly educating the teachers because the overdoses that have happened on campus, a lot of times the teachers and the faculty are around and they carry around their naloxone kits. So we have trained almost more than half of our medical team, and then now we're also trying to train community members anywhere where an overdose could happen. So even we've given presentations to librarians because sometimes people pass out right outside of the library when they're walking by or they're sleeping outside of the library. So anywhere that you know of that could use a presentation, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to arrange that.
Thank you, Love. That's a good question. As they were giving the speech, Tanya was leaning over and telling me we need to get this into the high schools. So we'll be working on it through our office as well to get into the high schools.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we have, not this specific presentation, but the same information, for sure. We do more of a general, covers a lot of different types of drugs. Today we're concentrating specifically on fentanyl, but we do have some programs that go out to the schools. We work with the AG's office, and some of our other partners to do schools and youth groups, everything actually from school age to kapunas we do. So the information does get out there, but people do have to invite us to come like here.
And then the police department has the DARE program, Drug Abuse Resistant Education. They provide those services along with the Juvenile Services Division. I can't speak for them. It's a whole different division, but I'm pretty sure they go out to the schools and they talk to the kids.
Thank you, Love, for that question. Auntie.
Aloha, I'm Fran, and this is for the Waianae Comp team. I'm just wondering or curious about how many dosages do you give a person and how much does that contain? How many dosages?
Yes. Oh, so in each, yeah, thank you for your question. So in each box you have, oh, come with the light, okay. You have 2 doses in here. So again, you give the first dose, yeah, you're really tall. Okay, so you give the first dose, wait 2 to 3 minutes, then you're gonna wanna administer the second dose in the second nostril. I've heard stories and situations where sometimes 4, maybe 6 may be used to bring somebody back. So if you do have, that's why we say take a couple boxes with you and have it on hand. Yeah, definitely. Pass it around and grab many boxes on your way out.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Ross from Makaha. Actually, I have a question and a possible outreach solution, actually, to piggyback off Love. This is more of a question to our DPS guy. I'm old school, sorry about that. Anyway, with the increase in the fentanyl use, how much has that the past 4 years of open borders affected what's coming into Hawaii?
You know, I don't know that, like I said, we started seeing it in 2018, and it has continued to come. We know that everything pretty much comes across the southern border at some point, or from Mexico via other routes into the United States. But, you know, whether there's been an increase or decrease, it's been a very steady flow that we've just tried to try and pinch off as we could to lessen it.
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for Rep. Muraoka and Rep. Kila for organizing this informational. And thank you for you folks, because I'm military, so you folks are the soldiers in a never-ending war. This thing has been going on for 55 years, you know, declared war against drugs. So you guys have job security. We're not going to be able to stop this thing. We can control it. And again, I'll just piggyback off what Levy was talking about in other, you folks do have programs for the schools. You know, I'm aware of, like, the methamphetamine issue has been over the past 20 years coming in, and especially to the west side. Well, you know, the kids that are graduating now were due to diaper babies back then. So there's a whole generation of kids. We need to start with elementary school, and we need to be very visual about this thing. Big posters, and not just, you know, periodic visits, but monthly visits. And like you folks were from the comp were working with the teachers and the counselors, you know, and it's going to be you folks, the reps, the law enforcement, the medical community, all coming together with the community, because you're not going to be able to do anything with the parents. Let's be honest. Parents are working 3 jobs just to pay the bills. Parenting is pretty much now with the community. So the community is going to have to step up. And the schools are the very first. And these little kids, their brains are mush. So you get them at elementary school. By the time they get to intermediate school, maybe some seeds have been planted. So by the time they get to high school, maybe they can be community workers in this fight. The war is it's going to be ongoing. It's not going to end. We're not going to stop the flow of the drugs coming in, but we can manage it. I'm an alcoholic addict in recovery, 28 years clean and sober. I'm never going to be cured of the disease, but it can be managed. And the information that you folks put out today, HPD and the state, capital. This is the kind of information that you got to take to the kids. But I got to go along with the doctor. You got to do 3 times. And, you know, it just freaks me out that Psychology 101, things haven't really changed in 50 years, because they were teaching the same thing when I was an undergrad student. So education, education, education.
Thank you, Uncle Ross.
Thank you, Uncle.
I just want to say, I'm a chicken fighter, okay? I haven't been going chicken fights because there's more fentanyl and marijuana in the chicken fights than in the game room.
Wait, share your name real quick.
Sabrina Grace. Okay, now, it is in the marijuana. And somebody needs to get Ed Sabala, because he's our biggest marijuana distributor out this side. And it's all in there. The fentanyl will replace the cocaine. So a little bit of fentanyl and marijuana, the young generation get hooked. One thing he said, though, is true. You need the community help. But this community not going to call HPD. They're scared. But if you and Rep. Muraoka made a hotline where people can anonymously put, like Stolen South Hawaii, what's going on with the fentanyl use and who's doing it. Yeah? I'm hoping you guys would break the chicken fights like you do the game rooms, so we can go back fighting safe again. I'm Filipino. It's always going to be in me. But the drugs and the vape stores, you know the vape stores? It's not going to hurt for you guys to go to the vape stores and go check what they're selling, because you can get that there too.
I do think that there is a question in that, and I think to our law enforcement agencies and partners, if two parts. One, how do you build the case? And then 2, what do you need to build a case to then either prosecute or stop?
the first part, HPD does have an anonymous phone call system. If you guys want to write this down, I'll give you the phone number. Are you guys ready? Or type it in. It's 808-723-3933. That goes to the narcotics vice. You can do anonymous tips over there, give whatever information you have, and they're not going to ask for your name or anything like that. The other one is, if you have internet, 808-723-3933. And the other one is, you can go onto our website, look for Narcotics Vice. There's an online form if you want to do it through the internet itself without talking to anybody. You just submit a report, and then somebody will get it, and it gets investigated. As far as making the cases, it depends on the type of case, but we normally have to go out and make buys, physical buys, either using an informant or an undercover officer. And then once the buys are made and then it's tested and it becomes actual narcotics, what we think it is, we present the case to the prosecutors, we get arrest warrants, and then we arrest them. The other one is, if it's a large enough amount or it's trans-state, we make a federal case and we partner with a federal agency to do it. Yeah. The other ones are the normal street users. Those are enforced normally by patrol officers. They run across them on view, things like that. Yeah. If we don't have any evidence or we don't have any witnesses or we don't have the narcotics, it's really difficult to make the case. And a lot of the cases are made because people are calling it in. And what it does is our complaints detail will go out and they'll investigate it. If they have enough, they'll further the case. A lot of times, though, it's what you guys see is probably not enough for the case, or when the investigators go out, they don't see what you guys saw, the amount of traffic or the people coming in and out. It looks like suspicious, but as far as legally, it may be difficult to prove. But if you guys think it is, just keep calling it in, and then somebody will keep getting assigned the case. Does that answer the question?
Actually, it's the same process. Really, it's tips can come in. We now at DLE are using a program called Safer Watch, which is a program that we have out there for our fireworks enforcement, but you can also leave tips for firearms and drug offenses on that. They have both website and a call-in, a way you can call into it. It's an app, actually. If you have that Safer Watch app, you can report things on it, and that's very popular out there. But it's the same process. We get a tip or information, we start investigating it, start looking into it, see if there's a way to get in there. I will tell you everything West Side, and not only West Side, but in a lot of tight-knit communities. If you see me in my silver Ford Taurus parked in your neighborhood, you're probably going to know somebody's there that's looking at somebody, right? So if you're doing bad things and you see me, you're not going to do them, right? That's what makes it difficult. That's why we have to use confidential informants. We're using undercover officers and trying these things, phone tolls, records, from the bank, things like that. But it takes a long time to build a case that way. Yeah, so that's why it is 2 to 3 years is not unusual for a successful prosecution in a larger scale drug investigation.
I just wanted to add on that to the anonymous numbers. If Miss Katie can stand up. So Miss Katie is the coordinator of Safe and Sound West Side, and it's a new program that's recently been out here, and it helps with a lot of these stuff. And Katie, you guys have a number that they can call and reach out to, right?
We do have aloha everyone. I'm getting over a cold, so pardon my voice. My name is Katie Ka'ahanui. I am the new director for Safe and Sound West Side. Been in this role since the program started only 6 months or so ago. It's very new out here on the West Side. We are, however, working on being more transparent with the community. So what are we doing to showcase the cases that we're seeing? But not only that, what are we doing about it, and how are these results being shown to our community members based off of the information and the concerns that you folks share with us? So we do have a website. It's honoluluprosecutor.org, and from there is a submission form where you can fill out anonymously if there's anything that you would like us to know about. There is a phone number on there, but it's just to our office. So that one, it's not anonymous. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your information, I definitely recommend going on our website first. But it comes to me, and you can also get my contact information there as well.
Thank you, Katie. And because Katie is still learning the community, she has taken every chance to meet different orgs and groups. So if at some point you're thinking, trying to get Katie involved in the work that you're doing, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you, Katie.
And I just wanted to share on behalf of Katie and Safe and Sound Westside, since we've been able to work with her here on the Leeward Coast, we've had a lot of anonymous things being placed online and immediate changes in the areas. So please go to that website and utilize that connection. I tell everybody, if you're just going to sit there and grumble, you're going to get nothing. Get online, get on the phone, say something, or go home. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions on first one. One for the medical and one for the police department.
Wait, so narco and then one for Department of Law Enforcement?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start with narco.
Actually, I wanted to find out, they were talking about expiration date for the Narcan. How long does that one Narcan last before it expires? What's the lifespan on it?
Yes, so it's like any other medication. There's going to be an expiration date on the box, and it varies. So like, we passed around the one that we had. So you're going to see it on the back. So I can't tell you exactly how long it's good for. It's actually good for a little longer past the expiration date, but I always recommend if it's coming up, just come in, stop by, and we'll exchange out for new naloxone for you. That way you have fresh naloxone on hand at all times. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, my name is James.
Nice to meet you, James.
But this is for the officers, the law. You answered part of my question I had in my mind earlier. I saw blatant dealing going on today, exactly today. And every time I pass this place, I see it all the time. It's by the Waianae transfer station, the rubbish dump. There's some Quonset huts right there in the house, right across the street from the Mormon church. I saw it today. I was over there today. Going in, had about 3 guys over there buying. Coming out, had 4 guys right there buying in that area. What I'll find out is, if I report it now, how long is it going to take for this place to get cleaned out?
I wish I could say immediately, but I wouldn't be able to know. So we have a complaints detail, and we also have a crime reduction detail, if you've heard of the crew guys. But normally the complaints detail will get the case based on the information. They're going to send somebody out based on the caseload. So if everybody calls in complaints island-wide, they're going to have to go island-wide and take whatever case they can get at first priority, I guess, first come, first serve. The other way is the crime reduction units. They do something similar, but they're not focused on narcotics only. And a lot of times what they'll do is if they get a district complaint, like to Waianae or Kapolei, they can sometimes address it themselves. Like they'll go out there and do their own little observations, and then if they can get something on view, they'll do it that way too. As far as the other way is patrol officers, but you know, if you see a police car showing up, nobody's going to do drugs normally around them. They do it, but not normally. So if you just call it in or email, they'll send somebody out, I guess, as soon as they can. But I couldn't tell you offhand how fast it's going to be. Yeah. For who?
Hi, I'm Loretta. I live in this community, and I want to make a comment, and I want to ask a question. And this is to the state people and just basically the community. Observation with people on a lot of getting state benefits and all. What is the policy on drug testing? Because a lot of times they transfer their benefits into drug situations. That happens. Okay, and I'm wondering, will they say, oh, you're taking my civil rights away if you drug test me? I should be able to take drugs if I want? what is the intersection of that? Okay, that's one thing. The other thing I wanted to make a comment to Chris Muraoka, thank you for cutting down, for allowing me and the workers at the high school to cut down the bushes, because we've frequently seen drug deals at the Surfside big hole where they just walked straight in that corridor and did their little business dealings, right? So that's huge. When you cut down the bushes, it makes a world of difference. The other thing is, I'm 70 years old, and I remember when I was in second grade that at the school I attended, they showed us a movie on drunk driving. And there was a scene about that someone was fatally injured, and that made an impression on me about drunk and drugged driving I will never forget. And we have a beautiful media center at the YNI High School. And if there's some, very creative people who want to make a video or movie, it would be wonderful to show the little ones, the wee ones in the elementary schools, because that will make an impression, believe me. I've never forgotten it. So thank you.
I think maybe that's the question to me in Rep. I think we've had this discussion in the legislature, and there's something federally where don't quote me on it, but I think it has gone back to a federal level, because as other states have tried, they've never been successful. To your point though, I don't want to say that every person on SNAP does that, but we'd be lying to not say that it doesn't happen. So, I mean, we can try to explore it locally to see what could or could not be done. And then I think to your second point about exposing our youth, if I can just give an example, like, I really want to try to get in front of our youth, but I also want to respect, like, the parentals and how they raise their households. And if I can just give an example, in 2023, that interim, that was when we had that huge uptick of violence in Nanakuli High School, and we brought in private security. I had spoken at an assembly and expressed my sincere disappointment to the student body. And I said, we are better than this. I may have raised my voice. And just by me trying to go and show compassionate love, I had 3 parents that complained. So as much as I'm trying to get in front of our youth, I don't know what is happening at home, because anytime you try to show some form of love or assertion, these parents truly believe it's like an overreach. And we are only responding because there's a deficiency at home, right? And so, to your point, yes, somebody has to care. So but that instance has not stopped us from trying, right? But if I could just literally give that real world example, when we tried, most people got it, but we've always gotten some sort of pushback. But every experience is different. So I do want to see if there's a way we can all collectively, as much as it's at school, it's in our neighborhoods, it's in your block. So having eyes, I think, is a large deterrent in itself. We always talk about that, right? Is that a community that's active is a community that's paying attention. A community that's paying attention is the best reporting. So I also want to just acknowledge these reporting systems don't work without you folks, right? Me and Rep filter a lot of complaints, and it's important for us to help facilitate those. But there's a difference when there's because Rep will nod his head and tell you there is something that gets stale when we continue to push it through. But when it's Rep Muraoka and Tanya submitting the complaint, when it's Darius and Sabrina submitting a complaint, Darius and James, James, Chris, and Austin, like, all those people have names that can start to help hold us accountable. I know how uncomfortable it is to be that person, but like, I always use a real world example of where I live in Maili, the beach across 76. It took years to do like a lot of consistent trying to make sure that this place was enforced. And it started with reminding our law, not you specifically, but just asking them, can you please enforce park closure hours? You know, things that are already in their toolkit. And I want to thank law enforcement for slowly really doing what the best they can in their toolkit. And I appreciate them being here. Law enforcement is at Waianae High School in our school resource officer program. Nanakuli is getting that this school year. So slowly building this community culture of seeing reporting is totally needed. So, because I know it's the people in the room, you folks aren't the ones breaking the law, right? But it's how do we, in the words of Pastor Allen, how do we build a community that can not just call out, but call in the community to do better? So you folks showing up is half the battle. Sorry, Rep.
Aloha. My name is Austin. Yes, I do hold people accountable. But I'm going to make a statement because I'm concerned I'm a grandfather with grandchildren in schools. And this substance, fentanyl, can be laced into like that rice paper candy, tomoe. It can be laced, inserted into that paper. And tricksters can lace the children. And will be a situation. So I'm asking, does our state level, there's a good partnership I see here, state and city. But do we have the fundings, like a governor's emergency proclamation? If you folks are not funded in law enforcement, enough law enforcement undercover to deter this type of incoming by air and by sea that's coming into the islands. We're surrounded by island, so it can't be man-made fentanyl. I'm not sure. I'm not a chemist. But question, is there funding, more funding for law enforcement for undercover city and state, because you folks have a partnership to deter this type of behavior? Our state and city law enforcement, that's the question.
So if I can polish it, so to your work, are you folks adequately funded? And if so, would you need more funding? And what does the funding help you folks accomplish? So if I can start with county and then start with DLE.
I would say that we're kind of like everybody else in government. We are funded to the extent that we can function and we can do our mission. I think the bigger issue in law enforcement now, more than funding, is personnel. And every agency is short of officers. There was a period when, and not very long ago, when law enforcement was really vilified in a lot of places, and more in the mainland than here, but some here as well. And our young people don't want to get into law enforcement. And so for us, I'm at reaching the end of 32 years. I'm not going to stay much longer. And there aren't guys that are coming up that can replace us. So we have to be creative. We talked about some things. Our soon-to-be former director had a good plan that we're trying to put into play, where we actually have a statewide undercover program, so we can use officers from other counties, trying to bring them under the DLE umbrella. Some of those kind of outside the box ways of increasing our manpower. If HPD has an investigation and they need additional people, they can call us. We know we can call them. We do work together. But to say, whether we're funded enough to do it is really hard, because every place struggles with funding. The bigger issue, I think, and I don't know, Detective Tom will probably think similarly, but I know for sure for us, a manpower issue is huge.
Before I turn over to HPD, there has been attempts to revitalize the county youth pipeline to wanting to start law enforcement, not give them full deputized powers, but from that transition of 1819 and then go into full deputization. Under former Chief Logan, that was something he was working on. We've kind of been in limbo, as you folks know, about the transition, but we've been trying to find a way at both the state and, I can't speak for the county, but the state level to duplicate something like that as well. And I think the intent, Kapolei High School has done it. They're going to hopefully do it successfully with their law enforcement academy. That is the intent, is that they can start prepping these students to have an easier access into getting into the pipeline for law enforcement locally, keep them here locally. I know at the state level, we've tried to amend our laws to make the transition from other municipalities much more easier at the state level, and so has the county.
Yeah, at my level, I can't say budget is an issue because I'm not informed of the budget. I'm just a little guy in the big department. But, I mean, of course, the bigger the budget would help with manpower and overtime. And just like the state, if you guys seen us in the news, I think we're like 600 short, and then our division is roughly 50 to 60% manned. So, I mean, you look at it, roughly half the division is not manned. So we're doing what we can with the amount of people we can. But, I mean, that's pretty much exactly what the state is doing too.
I think that's a shared issue across not only law enforcement, but when we get complaints about our DMVs and our services out there, it's just a across the board shortage of personnel. So
One last question. And then as you're coming up, Rep, I think then that's one thing, if I can help you, if you folks can please help me drive this home. The biggest deterrent too, as we try to get folks into the pipeline of working, that criminal record will screw you up left and right. As soon as they get something on that record, it's going to come up in their background check. It's going to come up on the lie detector from using drugs at any point in your life, that anything that will go that they cannot pursue this career pathway. So if I can just continue to remind community, especially our youth in the room, your actions today have a sincere benefit or consequence on the trajectory of your life. So I'm not saying that's not, I don't want to put that much pressure, but it literally is make or break. So, Rep.
So we get Auntie Kila, and then we're going to take, I seen Uncle Ross and Sabrina. We're going to end with Pikachu. Since he's up now, I was about to use some Narcan on him. I saw him sleeping over there. Okay, so we're going to take the last few questions and then we'll wind down.
Thank you, Rep.
Aloha, Kala. You know, what's been going on is a thing that looks like the Kool-Aid packages, and it's called Spice Gold. That's been going on with our kids nowadays, and a lot of people do not know that. When you see kids hyperactive or acting belligerent in their classes, they are now touching that. The issue we've been having, we've been fighting that. It's in 7-Eleven stores, many stores, and you don't have to be 18 to purchase these things. It's a cannabis thing. So they start little with little high. From there, they go, each time they go higher. Why do you think the elementary schools, a lot of them is beyond the controls of the parents? The parents do not know. They think they're purchasing candies, but it's Gold Spice. You guys can read it, look at it, study it. You got the websites on your phone. This has to be controlled. The other thing is, when you have things brought up, the community brings up things through the HPD, and HPD can do the job. You have the law enforcement can do their job, but it's the prosecutors and the court needs to make sure they have to be held accountable, because if they keep reporting things and stuff like that and they get kicked out of the courts, how are we going to hold these drug dealers or pushers responsible? If they find all the information, but when it comes to the courts, they get kicked out. That's the problem we're going to have. And we all know we face it, but you don't hear about it. So that is, prosecutor, it goes in and it goes out. So no matter how our enforcements are fighting, they need more laws to make sure it's enforced and not just go to the courts and a drug dealer gets away with it as a misdemeanor. That's the problem we're having in our system. So the solution is we have to hold the drug dealers accountable for their actions. The law has to make sure. It's no different than like Duke law, okay? You have to enforce it. So we just need better judges out there to protect our community, our island. We don't need somebody that receives a white envelope and then it goes down. Let it go away, hush away. So that's my concern. But Gold Spice is being a thing for years.
And as Rep is bringing to the next question, I don't want to speak so much for the county, but I know what's happening at the county level. The mayor just vetoed their budget. In that budget, the council allocated 10 more prosecutor positions to the office of the prosecutor for that exact reason. I know one prosecutor that has a caseload of almost 200 separate cases they're trying to work. You folks know I care a lot about animal cruelty. There's only one prosecutor in the prosecutor's office that is handling all animal cruelty things. So that 10 positions, should the council object to the veto, that allows the prosecutor's office to bring that much more people on. And I think one thing me and Rep would agree upon, let's continue to uplift our youth to be lawmakers and not lawbreakers, because it's just not law enforcement, it's helping them also prosecute law.
Yes, I agree with Rep there and with what Auntie said. We got to stop vilifying the police department. Yeah, they're not villains. They're not at all. So we're going Uncle Ross, Sabrina, and then we're going to end with Pikachu.
Okay, I'll make this fast because I promise, it's past my bedtime already. This is for our law enforcement professionals. How much cooperation are you getting from the federal government? It seems like a lot of these cases, these drug cases, are taking place in federal court. You know, ICE is vilified, and everybody thinks immigration, but it's immigration customs enforcement. Customs, obviously, is a lot of the activity that's coming into the state. Are you getting any cooperation from the feds?
To our law enforcement partners, can you talk about what that relationship looks like and if it is happening?
Yeah, so probably not so much with ICE, even though that is customs also. Customs tends to deal specifically with foreign duties or foreign shipments that are coming in. And most of that actually gets intercepted before it gets to Hawaii. It goes through major customs ports on the West Coast. But I will say that we have a lot of working relationship, other Homeland Security investigations, DEA, FBI, ATF, U.S. Postal Inspection Service. They are all active in trying to do some of the interdiction of the incoming. And then for us, actually, it's a great tool. If we can build a case up to where the feds will take that case and the federal prosecution will take it, federal sentencing guidelines are much stricter than state guidelines. There's no such thing as parole in the federal system. So that's why when we have the bigger dealers, the bigger organizations, we try to take them federally. It's an advantage for us. But they are very helpful. We work very well with a lot of the federal agencies.
For HPD, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. We do partner with the federal agencies, except we don't usually work with ICE or CPB. But it is ATF, HSI, DEA, and FBI, U.S. Postal Service, and who am I missing? There's a couple other alphabets out there. But we do work together. We have task force, and the same thing. We cannot take county cases to federal. It has to meet a certain threshold, usually the amount or where it's coming from or going to. But we do federal cases with them. Okay.
You need to check your children's phones because the cartel has an app that you can buy drugs directly from, and it gets delivered to you. We had this done. One of my brother's children, his grandchildren did this, and she goes to a private school. And we took the case to the feds. So your children, your grandchildren, check the apps on the phone. Because cartel is here in Waianae, you know. You can buy, there's an app that you can buy drugs, fentanyl, cocaine, ice, directly from them.
And as I think Rep's walking to our last question, are you folks, if a parent reports that, are you folks able then to work with the parent on the child's activity? It just depends. It just depends.
Hello, my kako. Pikachu shall be on live. For all of you guys, thank you for listening to everything. You already know we are combating human trafficking and drug smuggling. So shout out to Darius, Kila, Chris Muraoka, because out of everyone on the west side, including the entire capital, Chris Muraoka, I love my brother from Mozambique. He's the only guy who actually helped me write bills to combat human trafficking and drug smuggling. Now, I'll be straight up with you. We got feedback from Tulsi Gabbard's father, yes, Star Wars father, said we can't do it as one combination bill to combat human trafficking, drug smuggling, child pedophilia, and everything to the Epstein files. He asked me to ask you guys, we have to break up the bills individually. Organ harvesting is a separate bill. Child trafficking, another bill. Drug smuggling, another bill. And thank you for you guys coming in for Doe. I already talked to Jad Radula, who agrees to me to combat human trafficking, drug smuggling. But the issue with narco, I love you guys, and the brother from another mother, the bill, the budget that I told Mayor Rick Lunch, the veto, they're cutting you guys $5.5 million out of $4.97 billion. So how are you going to combat human trafficking, drug smuggling? Now I'm going to give you a story. Our team rescued an individual who was on Big Island Thieves, was on the news. They didn't put it out there, and she's a 48-year-old woman. I'm only going to tell this story because I cannot reveal the team. I cannot reveal the victim, but this happened Friday night. And I can guarantee you, while I'm cutting fish and sashimi, I have over 3,000 views on Facebook, which means you don't care about the politics. You'd rather see me cut tuna. But on that very night, we have an alibi. We rescued a 48-year-old woman on Hilo who's being human trafficked. And the chick right now, I have the phone. I'll show you guys. I can tell you the perpetrator. Her name's Diana Machado. She's a Hilo nurse right here on my phone. And is tied with the KGB, the Russians, and Micronesians. We had to call Chief Reed Mahuna to show up because the cops were going to take a bribe for $500 from our team and recorded this online. The victim is safe. And the fentanyl is coming through Michelle Kobayashi's boyfriend to the Russians who already raided them. Now, I want to ask you guys, what are you going to do about it? And that's the final question.
To that point, where do we go from here? What has I think, leadership in both of your agencies tasked you folks on doing, and how more can we support you folks to accomplish those missions?
Really, there's no magic bullet, no pill, no law enforcement that can solve this. No law enforcement agency. This is something that has to be addressed from the community. That's why I appreciate you guys all coming out. We won't know about these things unless you are telling us about them. So please, as we've talked about, please report. Look out for each other. Look out for your neighbors. We are, even if you combine our units, we could fit in this room probably less people than there are in here right now. And that's to cover not only Oahu. I'm with the state, so we're in every county we go to. It's something that really has to start at the community and be a community responsibility. We will be there to support you, but really that's what we are there for, is to support what you guys are seeing, what you're reporting. Not really a true answer, like this is what we're going to do, but that's the truth of the matter.
Awesome. Sorry.
He said it all.
I think what I wanted to tell you was nice barber. Yeah. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out, especially everybody who had questions, who had feedback, and you guys coming to these things just show how much you guys truly care. And Pikachu touched on something that I worked with him on that bill. That's something that Rep. Kila and myself, we welcome to anybody from our community. If you guys have an idea on a bill that you guys are passionate about, that you guys think will help make our coastline and our state in general a better place, bring it to us. And let us help. We don't know everything. We just pretend to. Our staff is what makes us look good.
I don't pretend. But to that end, though, what Rep is saying, because it's not just legislation, it's budgetary, and it's also our department agencies. That's why this interim is so important, because I always tell people legislation is the last endeavor. That means we couldn't do it through admin rules. That means we couldn't do it through the department. That means we couldn't accomplish it. So for pursuing legislation, that means everything that we've tried hasn't gone that far. So I always say if there's a way for us to work this interim on different agencies, or not just legislation, it can be budgetary, or it can be something simple as not simple, but MOUs, MOAs. Like those are things that are available at our tools and resources to use. So the questions you folks had tonight, thank you. It shows you care, right? Me and Rep always say, I want to live in a community that will thrive, that appreciates law enforcement, that wants to obey the law, that wants to follow the law. I know the few people that break the law is not reflective of this community. So I just ask for your folks' support when we have law enforcement come out, whether it is doing traffic enforcement, whether doing the stings, understanding they are trying to help us build a safer and stronger community together. Because I cite Pastor Allen, because you cannot just root out evil without replacing it with something good, right? So let us help continue to planting those stakes. And sorry, Rep.
And so we just again, we want to thank you from my office, from Rep Kila's office. Just thank you guys so much for coming out and caring. And we're going to close in prayer. If Pastor, if you would come up and bless us. Yes, yes. What Blanca said. So again,
And as Apostle's coming up, I really want to thank Ark of Safety for opening their doors. If we can give them a round of applause.
this is a beautiful facility, and it's open for parties and celebrations. Come on out. I mean, look at this. Comfortable, beautiful, safe.
AC.
Yeah. And here you go.
Can we give the representatives a big round of applause? And then all to our leaders that came out to support it. And I'll close by saying one thing. Born and raised here in our city all my life. My grandfather came 1946. Papa Henry Kamakabivole started our church a long time ago. And I'm glad to still be in our city, in our community. But it takes all of us together to work as a team to overcome the violence, the drugs, and all the other things that tries to come against our families. There's one scripture in the Bible says, Proverbs 22:6, says to train up a child in the way they should go. And when they grow old, they will not depart from that training. Anybody can raise a child, but to mentor and train that child, to discipline and teach the child, that's where they'll begin to grow as community leaders. And I'm grateful for all of you coming here tonight and being a part of this great, successful meeting. And I pray that many, many more other families and teenagers and young children could come so they can hear and learn for themselves. Again, from my heart to all of you, mahalo. Can we all stand and I'll dismiss in prayer. Father, we come before you tonight, giving you all the glory and praise. And we thank you, dear God, because it cannot happen just with one person. It takes the community support to work together. The Bible says, any two in agreement touching one thing on earth, our Father which is in heaven shall hear it and answer our prayer. And so, Father, we come before you tonight, and we ask, dear God, that you intervene on our behalf and break the cycle of addiction. Break the cycle of drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and every spiritual warfare that comes against our families, our keiki, our children, Lord, our loved ones, our husbands and wives. And Father, we thank you, Lord, that as we gather together one night tonight, to gather together and call this to your attention, Father, we ask now that we place this in your hand, and we thank you once more for all our people, the Ohana, the leadership, our reps that came, because they care. Bless everyone. Take them home safely. We give you all the glory in Jesus' name. And everyone can help you by saying amen. God bless you. Aloha.
So when everybody's leaving, feel free to stop over by the comp and grab you guys some Narcan.